This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Welcome back live to Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. You know, tonight we're talking about the 10 social issues that Americans talk most about. I think this show is relevant because we all have these specific issues that are important to us. We all have the things that we feel haven't been taken care of, haven't been made right. And these are the things, these are the issues that society comes together about. And I want to talk about that tonight because I think this is really important, because I think this is getting on people's minds. I think that it plagues people's minds. I think that it stresses people out. But I also think that we need to talk about it. And if we're able to talk about the issues and talk about them in a logical manner and think about it in different perspectives, we're able to put things into alignment. We're able to understand maybe a better idea of what's going on, or even a better idea of how to handle the situation. And I think that it allows people to come together, because conversation and a plan helps people come together, because you feel like, you know what? We have a good beat on things. At least we're talking about things. And you know, when you get things out in the open and you discuss issues, it feels better because we're not trying to hide it. We're not trying to sweep it under the rug. We're not trying to act like it doesn't exist. And we're trying to do, or we're working for a concept or a way of making things right. You know, I was thinking about this the other day, and I was thinking about doing a show based on these social issues, because I believe that these issues plague all of us. It's the things that keep us up at night. It's the things that stress us out. It's the issues that aren't easily brought up, you know, over the dinner table or at a bar. And to be quite honest with you, some of these issues are the issues that actually divide families. Divide people up in a family, divide people up. And some people don't want to talk about it because it stresses them out so much. I've even seen married couples where they're so stressed out about certain issues that the one person knows that they shouldn't bring up these issues at all over the dinner table or at all, because they know that their spouse is going to completely stress out. Because, you know, when we're thinking about things in our head, when we think about these things in our head, we hear that voice and we hear it over and over again. And when someone else brings it up, it's like, oh my gosh, too much. Too much. I'm too overwhelmed. I got too much on my plate right now. And I don't really want to think about that social issue. But I think tonight, let's get it out in the open. Let's clear the air. And let's figure out what really bugs us the most. You know, the first issue, because I'd like to go backwards. I like to go backwards on this deal, because you know how they always do the top 10, and they count down. You know, we count backwards because it's more exciting that way. So let's talk about the top 10 social issues that people talk about the most. And I thought it'd even be cool to even look toward Twitter and Facebook and all that good stuff and see, as far as social media is concerned, do these issues are they still big issues when it comes to social media? And when I think about social media and I think about societal issues, I think about Twitter more, because it seems to get to the point. It's usually, when we're talking about social issues, we're not showing pictures of our family, we're not talking about our vacation, but we're making a comment, we're putting out our perspective. We might be asking a question, we might be looking for clarity, Or we might just be, kind of blowing off some steam or just kind of like, venting our anger. And a lot of times these social issues can make us angry. And why do they make us angry? Because we don't know how to solve them. We don't know how to make them better. We don't know how to overcome them. And that becomes a problem because in life, it's hard enough to have specific issues. It's a different story to not know how to honestly deal with them. And so we're going to talk about the top 10 tonight, the top 10 issues that Americans talk most about. And I wanted to come from the American perspective at this point because I am living in America. Okay? And I think that in order to have a clear perspective, you have to clearly understand the culture and society, the societal climate. You have to have been a part of the mix for a long time. You have to be able to get in it and see it, move back, get some distance. And I also think that every country has its own set of issues. Some of them obviously cross over. And you're going to hear some of those tonight because, between pollution and transportation and stuff like that, those are definite social issues that cross over in almost every country in the world. And that becomes an issue. So let's talk about it tonight. Let's discuss these top 10, what it matters to us, and to think about it from different perspectives. The number 10 most discussed and most talked about social issue in America is to have better transportation and better roads. That's a big deal. I mean, how much of our day do we spend driving from work or home, point A to point B, picking up the kids from school, taking care of errands, going grocery shopping? How much of our day do we spend on the streets? How much of our day do we spend on the roads driving in traffic, in congestion? And, that becomes an issue because that's a big part of our day. I mean, some of you out there listening right now do 2, even 3-hour commutes. That takes up a large part of your day. And if that large part of your day is dealing with congestion and crowding and traffic, that's going to tint in a not so good way how you feel about your day. And I think it's interesting. A lot of people tweet about various morning commutes, being stuck in horrible traffic and traffic jams. What about subway delays in New York? It might not even have anything to do with you, and you have a subway delay and you're an hour late for work. And it's interesting because they actually did a poll on how many Americans tweeted about better transportation and roads. And this is all documented stuff from July 2015, from right now. And it looks like it was more about 1,400,000 tweets. Actually, 1,395,907 tweets to be exact. About the subject of better transportations and better roads. And it's the 10th most talked about issue on Twitter, which I think is interesting. And I think this is an interesting deal because a lot of us are dealing with commutes. A lot of us are dealing with heavy traffic. And this does put a tinge to our life. I mean, how many days have you had a great day, everything's going well, and you hit traffic, you get stuck for 4 hours? That changes the way you feel about things. And I think that's a big deal. And it's also kind of it's a damper from going from point A to point B. But better yet, it gets in the way, right? It gets in the way of our living our life. It gets in the way of us actually moving forward. And it gets in the way of our quality of life. The ninth most talked about issue out there right now on social media is reliable energy for the home. The whole kind of green source, green energy. We all hear about going green. That's important. That's important because, if we look at different countries, too, we realize that different ages and the industrial age has changed for various countries. Some have already had it. Some are in the midst of it. Think about it. Going green is important. We have a finite amount of resources, and we're starting to realize that more and more. We're also realizing that with global warming and other climate issues, that the earth is fragile. And we have to take care of it. And some of the questions we don't have answers to. And sometimes we have more questions than we do have answers. But I think that we have to really think about this in a logical manner and try to not abuse, but to use what we have and to think about it in a logical manner and to use it correctly. And I think that this is important because a lot of us are wanting to do the best for the environment. We care about energy. We care about costs. We care about global warming. We care about these issues. And because we care about these issues and it's part of us, this is something we talk about a lot. Because I think we all want to discuss electricity. We all want to talk about green sources. We want to figure out wind and solar power. This is a big deal. We even want to go a step further and figure out what are some of the setbacks with wind power. I mean, just a subset of that is, how many birds get killed with wind energy. There's a lot of things about that. But what outweighs the good? What actually works out? What creates a better environment? What allows for a more green society? And that's interesting because there was 1,717,863 tweets on reliable energy at home. And that's really interesting because I think that hits home with a lot of us because it's important. That is really important for many of us out there. When I return, I'm going to be talking about the other 8 most important social issues here in the United States. And later on, I'll be talking about what we can actually do about it. Stay tuned. Perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back this time in 2 shakes.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Welcome back live to Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. Tonight we're talking about the 10 most important social issues that Americans talk about. And for that matter, that Americans talk about when it comes to Twitter, that it comes to social media. The first one was better transportation and roads, and I think a lot of us can understand that because our commute takes a good part of our day. For some of us out there, some of you actually drive 2 to 3 hours a day, some of you even more in certain traffic. I mean, for everybody that's listening right now in LA, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, the traffic is horrendous. And it's interesting how we are getting more and more populated. There's more and more drivers on the road, and consequently, we're dealing with the situation of gridlock and horrible traffic jams. And over 1.4 million people tweeted about that last month. What about reliable energy? Number 9, the 9th most important social issue Americans talk about, is reliable energy at home. Think about it. What happens when the power goes out? We don't really think about the power. We don't really think about the electricity. We don't really think about the AC until the power goes out. And all of a sudden, it puts it all in perspective. And it's interesting because really important for Americans is the green sources of energy, like wind and solar power. And with 1,717,863 tweets this last month, reliable energy at home is the 9th most discussed issue on the social media platform. And I find that very interesting because that is something that we are embarking on. And I think, after America went through the Industrial Revolution, made its changes, overcome and realize what we've actually been contributing to on this earth, and realizing that we haven't been helping for renewable energy, and now at this point we have to give in and do something, this is a big deal for America. And there's other countries right now that aren't even partaking in this really because you know what? They're kind of where we were how many years ago. And I get it. But it's important to us because we actually care about the environment, and we not only maybe not care, but we realize that there's a finite of resources. We're at that point where we can't waste not, want not kind of deal. We've wasted a lot here in the past, and now it's time to pull it down. And there's a lot of companies now, Green Mountain Energy, there's InTouch Controls, there's various companies that are really working to help with the green energy. To help with, electricity and to lowering costs and lowering usages of electricity because it's so important. The eighth issue, remember we're counting down at this time, the eighth issue is the equality between men and women. And I think that's a big deal. Are men and women equal? Do they get the same equality? Do they have the same rights? And I can see the sides to both of that. And I see that there's some areas it seems like there's more equality, while there's other areas that don't seem that way. And I'd like to believe that it's all, roses and flowers and chocolates and unicorns. But I think to a degree, there are some sectors of certain industries that still don't see women and men as equal. And I think, I'm not saying that it goes back to the good old boy scenario. I'm talking about the concept that I think sometimes women are visioned in a certain way that they can or cannot do a specific job. And I agree that there might be some things out there that might be true, but I don't know. We see women in the military. We see women be able to do all kinds of things. And I think it's getting out of our old school thinking, and better yet, kind of seeing it for what it is. Because I think a lot of times things happen subconsciously, unconsciously. People make decisions based on old thinking, the way that they've always done everything. It doesn't make it right. It's just the way that it's always been done that way. And I think there's a lot of situations out there where it's just the way it's always been done. Well, we've always done it that way. That's what we've always done. We've always done this. We've always done that. We've always, come from this standpoint. We've always hired these types of people. They happen to be men, but we've always hired these types of people. So how are we going to flip over there and hire this woman? And the equality between men and women was the 8th most important social issue in America. And according to Twitter, this last month, there was 1,936,516 tweets about the equality between men and women. And it was interesting because people use keywords like gender and violence. And I thought that was very interesting. And I think nowadays, more than ever, people are seeing more equality. But I think that certain things just stand out. And it goes to show you that the situation is not perfect yet. We still have a ways to go. And I think sexism is a problem. Some people call sexism as a social disease. And I can see that as a problem, and I can see that as an issue. And, there's different perspectives on how to overcome that, but I think a lot of it is getting it out there, talking about it. Why is there inequality? Why do certain people in certain industries see women as lesser? Interesting. And if we can kind of talk about the issues and open up into a forum of a peaceful, informative discussion, things can change. The 7th most talked about issue in America, as far as social issues are concerned, is how important the protection of the forests, the rivers, and the oceans are. And I kind of think that this goes with the green concept, and I think it's hand in hand with that. Because it's so important to keep clean, to help, solidify and keep things in a certain spot when it comes to our environment. And a lot of times in the past, we've overlooked this. And even in recent times, think about the BP spill. Think about all this stuff that's happened. Think about over in Japan, like Fukushima. There's a lot of things that are happening on Mother Earth right now that are detrimental. And we have to put it in perspective. And in the same position, we have to care. We care about the environment. We have to care about our oceans and our forests and our river. And it's interesting because Americans really do care. They really do care about the planet. And it's interesting because there was 2,352,180 tweets about saving the world's trees from illegal logging and protecting our oceans from toxic plastic pollution and making protecting forests and the rivers the 7th most talked about issue on Twitter. And I think this is so important. And when I hear about drilling in the Arctic and that kind of sort of thing, it just makes me sad, because I think the most important thing we have in this situation is Mother Earth. Having clean drinking water, having outdoors, having facilities and things that are there out of the earth, not man-made, there that we can experience, that we can be a part of, that's not tainted, that's not dirty, that's not, I mean, it's like, why do we have to like finally put our arms around things and try to save something after it's almost already gone? And I think we're realizing that we have to take care of these things or we're not going to have them anymore. I mean, even off the coast of Santa Barbara, there's been a lot of different spills, been some issues. And a lot of this, you wonder, is this lobbyists? Who's getting away with doing all this? But what about criminal time? How important is the oceans? How important is our environment? How important do we deal with these issues? How strict do we become to be sure that we limit the amount of situations that this takes place? The sixth issue that Americans talk about most is the action that is taken on the climate change. Better yet, the people who deny that there is a climate change. I think we can determine from the evidence, from the text that's been written by several agencies, organizations, the pictures alone of the polar bears out there with that little bit of ice, and knowing that I don't know how much time they have. I mean, some of those pictures tell a billion words. And to me, I don't know how to change it. And that's something that gets to me, and that's something that really strikes a chord in me, is that to see that and to read the documentation, I don't know how you can say that it's not changing. I don't understand how you can deny the fact that the climate is changing. I don't understand how you can deny it. And it's interesting because Americans tweeted 2,431,326 tweets about this issue. And it's clear that Americans know there's a problem with our environment. And it's interesting that users of the Twitter platform are eager to discuss pollution, conservation, clean energy. And, I've even seen stuff like fracking is whack. Frack is whack. I've seen some interesting stuff out there. And I think that it shows you that even though some of this stuff is not being reported on the news or not really being talked about, most people have a good beat on things to know that this actually exists. Not only does it exist, but it's real. And it's interesting how when you do turn on the news sometimes, they don't talk about the stuff that really matters. I mean, without water and with the climate change, with all this stuff going on, we have a real problem. And, we're not really talking about that. And I understand that it would be kind of doomsday, but, I mean, it's not like the news is real positive anyway. And so I think we have to look at it and say, at least from an American standpoint, most Americans, a lot of Americans know that we have some environmental issues that are, some people would say, almost or is catastrophic. When we return, we'll be talking about the other social issues that Americans tweet about the most and that social media cover the most, and later on what we can actually do about these issues and how we can make a change or make a dent on bettering these situations. Stay tuned. Perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, be back this time in 2 Shakes.
Ever notice your dog slowing down and having health issues and wonder, what can I do to make them better? Well, my friend, add Rough Greens to your dog's food for 90 days, and I guarantee you'll see changes that will amaze you. Greetings. Naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black, inventor of Rough Greens here, and I invite you to give your pup the Rough Greens 90-Day Challenge. In the first 30 days, you'll see shinier coats and increased energy. By day 60, your dog will have a stronger immune system, less shedding, improved joint function, all due to the live nutrients that you've added to their diet. And at 90 days, better digestion, reduced inflammation, improved heart health, and you may even have reduced their cancer risk. Fetch your dog a free Jumpstart trial bag today. Go to roughgreens.com, use promo code 90day. That's ruffgreens.com. Use promo code 90day. You just cover the shipping. You don't have to change your dog's food to improve your dog's health. Just add a scoop of Rough Greens.
Welcome back live to Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. Tonight we're talking about social issues. The 10 biggest social issues that Americans talk about the most. Right before the break, we were discussing the concepts of the climate change and how over 2,400,000 tweets were made in the last month about climate change, but better yet, the people who deny that there is a climate change, and how Americans know about pollution and the conservation need and the clean energy need, and how they don't want to sweep it under the rug anymore. And I think it's good that people are commenting and making comments and talking about it. However, there's got to be some plan of action. And I think that we have to also realize that our comments and our thoughts are not going on deaf ears. The number 5 biggest social issues that Americans talk about the most on Twitter are political freedoms. And Americans agree and they think that America is the greatest nation in the world, as long as we uphold our democratic values. And it was interesting, an astonishing 2,809,219 tweets last month about civil rights, about freedom of the press, freedom of the speech, and it put this as the 5th biggest social issue in America. And that's so important because we can sit there and talk about our country, and we can talk about how great our country is, but it's based on the fact that they're actually standing up for the rights and for the reality of what our country was based upon. Our country is based on certain rights, certain inalienable rights, the freedom of speech, our civil rights, and political freedoms. And I think in the last few years, people are seeing more and more and more wondering, are we losing our freedoms? Are we losing our rights of privacy? Are we losing our right to free press? Are we losing our right to express ourselves, to say how we truly feel? And that is how our country was predicated on. And I think that a lot of people are making sure that that doesn't change and speaking out to say, hey, we're aware. These are the rules and these are the laws that we've created in this land, and we want to step up to the plate and make sure that these are followed. You know, the 4th biggest talked about social issue, and I think it goes hand in hand, is a need for an honest and responsive government. Interesting. And I think that we get past party platforms, we get past Republican and Democrat, red and blue, elephant and donkey, all that kind of stuff. I think that they, Americans, us, just want a government that works. Just want a government that works. And I think there's a lot of people out there in every country that just wants a government that works. And I know it sounds so simple, but why does it seem so challenging to get a government that works? 2,826,891 tweets about an honest and responsible government put this issue in the 4th spot. And it's showing that we aren't just caught up in bipartisan or partisan politics as we think. Because these tweets were about having a government that works, that's honest, that's responsive, not because it's one thought process or another. And I thought that was interesting because a lot of times, at least for me, I think more so on Facebook, you see a lot of people making comments about Republicans and Democrats and who's what and who should be in the White House and all that stuff. And I think lately, a lot of us have been hearing stuff about, various people who are running, especially in the Republican and Democratic Party for the upcoming presidential election next year. And I think it's interesting. You see a lot more of that on Facebook maybe. And I think more people are tweeting, however, about just having a government that's honest with the people that it governs. That it's not just self-interested. That it doesn't just create rules for the people that have to deal with the rules. I mean, think about it. Was it Immanuel Kant that said, I think it was Immanuel Kant, the veil of ignorance principle. Yes, it was Immanuel Kant. The veil of ignorance principle, meaning that you don't make laws or rules. Well, you want to make laws and rules based on the fact that you actually probably have to follow them. It's like the veil of ignorance. You have a veil of ignorance, not knowing. You make rules and you make laws, being that you would have to follow them as well, not thinking about self and self-interest. And that's what people are tweeting about a lot, because they're thinking either the government is self-interested, out for themselves, and they don't care who's in the presidency, they don't care who's running the government, they don't care about the military, but they just want to make sure that the government is actually thinking about things for the American citizens. And I think all of us think about that. How much? It just depends on how much we listen to on the news and how much we think about. But all in all, we think about that kind of stuff. Is the government working? Are things solidly coming together? Are things being done to better society? Are they done for the right reasons? The third biggest social issue that Americans talk about is good education. Whether they're tweeting about student loan debt or actually showing love and thanking teachers, education is a really hot topic. And Americans care about getting a good education. 5,093,484 tweets last month make it the third most popular issue on the social media platform. This is a big deal. Education is a huge deal. Because it's true, if you think about it, education is pinnacle, educational is key. Being educated is key to understanding your environment, key to understanding where you are, key to understanding the real issues, keys to unlock the answers to life's questions. The more educated somebody is, the better off they are. And education is important. And you have a lot of people out there that say that everybody deserves the right to be educated, while others talk about how they had to pay for their schooling. I mean, I went through school and I paid for mine, and I took out some loans and I got a few little grants here and there, thank goodness. But for the most part, I ended up having to pay back my loans. And I do think that everybody has the right to education, just like everybody has the right to go to a doctor. However, I'm not really sure how all this needs to be said and done. And I think we have a lot of good ideas out there. But I think in the end, we want a healthy, educated society where people are educated on the real issues, educated as far as social, mental, emotional. Emotional IQ is important as well. It's not just all about books. And I think this is important to our survival. And not only our survival, but a healthy, quality survival. The next issue, number 2, is the freedom from discrimination. 6,449,822 tweets about issues related to freedom from discrimination put this issue number 2. Users on Twitter discussed everything from eliminating racism and discrimination against everybody from Muslims to marriage equality and LGBT rights. And I come from a position of thought that everybody, as long as they're not doing anything to hurt other people, have the rights to be themselves. And I've always felt that way. I don't know. I kind of was raised that way, but it was more just like an internal feeling. I mean, like, why do I care what other people are doing? And why do I care if certain people can be married or not? I mean, I really feel that there's so many sides to that story. And now that, legislation on the Supreme level has passed, I really think that this is going to be almost like a non-issue eventually. I think that because there was a law against it, it was almost a taboo situation. And I think now it's going to be more mainstream. But again, I think that it's important that people realize that everybody has the right to certain rights, and I agree with that. But on the same point, everybody has to treat it with the same respect. And I think that making that this is a legitimate thing where anybody can get married, I think that it's going to make it more sacred. And I think it's going to take kind of the interesting side out of it. Because, forever, men and women have been able to get married since the beginning of time. And now I think it's going to change things because all of a sudden now all the rights are granted to other people. And that changes the ability to be serious, and it changes the relationship. The last issue, the number one social issues that Americans talk most about when it comes to social media is better job opportunities. Better job opportunities. And it's interesting because the economy is still recovering from what we consider the Great Recession here in America. And it's really no surprise, really, that Americans are tweeting about finding employment or moving up on the career ladder. 6,838,071 tweeted, featuring words like unemployed, unemployment, and hiring, landing the subject of better job opportunities at the very top. And that's a big deal. Having a job that can provide in this world is so important. I would like to say that it doesn't matter, and it would be great to be able to do trade outs and everybody just live in a harmony, in a world of harmony where it didn't really matter, but that's not the way it is. Money controls a lot of things, if not almost everything. And with that being said, being able to have opportunity in jobs. And just in the United States alone, think about some of the states that are really budding, that are growing, that people are moving to. I mean, the state of Texas is a big one. Texas is a booming state right now. There's various other states that are really, really booming. And there's some states right now that are hurting even more than before. Some states that never rebuilt their infrastructure. Some states that started off hundreds of years ago as some of the biggest ports and shipping areas have never come back. And there's entire areas and cities and some various...
Ever notice your dog slowing down and having health issues and wonder, what can I do to make them better? Well, my friend, add Rough Greens to your dog's food for 90 days and I guarantee you'll see changes that will amaze you. Greetings. Naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black, inventor of Rough Greens here, and I invite you to give your pup the Rough Greens 90-day challenge. In the first 30 days, you'll see shinier coats and increased energy. By day 60, your dog will have a stronger immune system, less shedding, improved joint function, all due to the live nutrients that you've added to their diet. And at 90 days, better digestion, reduced inflammation, improved heart health, and you may even have reduced their cancer risk. Fetch your dog a free Jumpstart trial bag today. Go to roughgreens.com. Use promo code 90day. That's ruffgreens.com. Use promo code 90day. You just cover the shipping. You don't have to change your dog's food to improve your dog's health. Just add a scoop of Rough Greens. Ever notice your dog slowing down and having health issues and wonder, what can I do to make them better? Well, my friend, add Rough Greens to your dog's food for 90 days and I guarantee you'll see changes that will amaze you. Greetings. Naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black, inventor of Rough Greens here, and I invite you to give your pup the Rough Greens 90-day challenge. In the first 30 days, you'll see shinier coats and increased energy. By day 60, your dog will have a stronger immune system, less shedding, improved joint function, all due to the live nutrients that you've added to their diet. And at 90 days, better digestion, reduced inflammation, improved heart health, and you may even have reduced their cancer risk. Fetch your dog a free Jumpstart trial bag today. Go to roughgreens.com. Use promo code 90day. That's ruffgreens.com. Use promo code 90day. You just cover the shipping. You don't have to change your dog's food to improve your dog's health. Just add a scoop of Rough Greens.
Places in the United States that there isn't very many jobs. And people are having to move to get a job. And this is important when we think about poverty, when we think about the homeless number, when we think about hunger. Money equates to hunger or no hunger, poverty or no poverty, homeless or not homeless. And this equates to the biggest issue. Because if you've ever been homeless or if you've ever been in a situation where you didn't have a place to live and you had to depend on other people to let you sleep at their house or their couch, you know how painful and how scary that can be to not know where you're sleeping the following night. It takes precedence over everything. When we have problems with finances and we're about to lose our home, that changes everything. And when we don't have a good job and we don't have the ability to make financial money that we need to take care and provide, that takes over everything. Because the other issues aren't really even a thought. And that's kind of scary if you think about it, but it's true. If you're homeless and you have no place to live and you have no car, you're probably not thinking about how important saving the environment is. Definitely probably not thinking about equal rights. So the ability to think about equal rights, to think about the environment, to care about these issues mean that it's kind of almost like a Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? You've already gotten to a level of needs. You've acquired certain things in your life that allow you to be able to see a bigger picture, allow you to focus on other things instead of just the ability to live and eat and sleep. And there's something to be said for that. On one hand, it's kind of nice to be able to think about those other issues and to know that you actually have the ability to think about those other issues because you are, to some degree, somewhat secure in your basic needs. And it's interesting because I feel like there's a lot of people out there, especially in America, and a lot of us overlook that there are kids that go to bed hungry, that there are adults that go to bed hungry, that there's some people out there that work long hours, some of them working 2 and 3 jobs, that are trying to make ends meet. And sometimes we don't think about that. And I understand that there are kids and adults and families all over the world that need help. All over the world. But a lot of times Americans need to think about right next door. I want to talk now about that issue. It's interesting because I guess it was about 5 or 6 months ago, I was talking to some folks that have a ministry and they belong to a ministry up the street. And they were telling me about these kids who go to an area high school that literally is 5 minutes from my office. And I said, okay, well, what's going on with the kids at the school? And they told me there was about 40, 45 kids that they're talking about in particular that go to this particular high school and they're homeless. And they actually care enough about going to school that they show up for class every day. But some of them have to go back to living under a bridge at night. Some of them live in areas that they can kind of, sleep at. Some backyards. And I was like, wow. You don't really ever think about that. And they had asked me to be in this organization and help out the kids. And they said, the only thing is that you got to be consistent. You got to be consistent because these kids have never had anything consistent except for school. And if you're going to enter their world, they don't already trust people anyway. Because people have always let them down. But if you're consistent, they might open up to you. And it's interesting because a lot of times we don't realize that there are kids right now that struggle and do everything they can just to show up for school, and they're homeless. There's a kid right now, and I've talked to him a couple of times, and I plan on maybe doing an interview at some point. But I believe in people's privacy. and I don't like to exploit people. So I haven't done the interview so far. I've been thinking about a way of doing it, and I'm still wrapping my brain around a way of being able to do it without exploiting this child. And I see it done a lot of times on YouTube, and sometimes it's done with taste, and sometimes it's not. And sometimes I feel that it's more of a publicity stunt than it is to really shine light on the truth. But there are some people out there that are doing good things that have an ability to film it. But in this situation, there's a child that I see, and I would say probably about 15 years old, 16 years old, that lives under this bridge down the street from here, underneath the highway. Goes to school every day during school, comes back after school, and has a spot that he sleeps at, that he wakes up. Basically goes with the concept of the universe. When the sun goes down, you go to sleep. When the sun comes up, you get up. And my heart goes out to that, because that's a kid that's so dedicated to bettering himself no matter what, that he'll go through all this stuff just to go to school. And as we talked about those 10 most important social issues, I mean, better job opportunity, that's a big deal. The freedom from discrimination. A good education. That kid under the bridge knows the value of a good education, because you know what? That education can get him out from living underneath that bridge. An honest and responsive government. Political freedoms. Action taken on actual climate change. Realizing that, yes, indeed, this does exist. Protecting forests, rivers, and oceans. Stopping the illegal logging. Protecting our oceans. Stopping the pollution. The equality between men and women. Reliable energy at home, going green, the green sources of energy. And last but not least, the better transportations and roads, and overcoming that commuting and that traffic. These are issues that plague the American culture. These are issues that we deal with on a daily basis. How do you deal with it? How do you overcome your daily issues? How do you sleep at night when certain issues get to you? And, you know, some of the advice that I have for you tonight is very simple and clear. And it's talk with other people who feel the same as you. Put it out there. Be proactive. And I think this is amazing when you're able to communicate with other people. One, you know you're not alone. Two, there's a lot of different perspectives. And three, you can get a group together that can actually make some noise. And you know what? This country is based on having the right to freedom of speech, expression, and press. And when we gather more than one at a time and discuss the big issues and try to come up with a tactic, with a choice, with a solution, we're even more closer to clarity. So remember the issues that are really plaguing you right now. Write some of those issues down. Talk with some of your friends about it. Get it out in the open. Go online, do some research of what's been going on. You know, you can always reach out to your councilman, your councilwoman. You can also do some charitable donations of your time, talent, financial, as well as making it clear to other people the real issues and how you feel about them and what you think some options are, as well as explaining to other people what's going on, and not in a threatening, scary way, but just with an evidence-based reality. People want now the evidence. They want the document that shows what's going on. They want A to B. They want the problem and the solution, or the ways to the solution. Especially now, the newer generation are not interested in a diluted message of any means. To dilute the message means to change it from its factual way. And in order for people to understand now, people want the facts. And I believe that one of the biggest things that we can promote is not only open-mindedness, but the ability to have the truth. I want the truth on all occasions. The truth will set us free. And I think that the more we know the truth and the more that the truth is expressed and the more that we find out that people and companies and industries are doing what they can and being transparent, that's when America and the world will get better. Perspectives with Ashley Burgess, always more answers, less questions. If you want to know any more information about me as a therapist or a life coach or a talk show host, you can go on ashleyburgess.com, Ashley, BERGES.com. I'm also on 7 days a week on terrestrial radio, and I love Spreaker. It's a good ability to have amazing podcasts and to have good content, quality content, truthful content that people can listen to, learn, laugh, but better yet, to get the truth to the people that are listening. Again, ashleyburgess.com for more information on me, and you can definitely click on that contact page and send me a note. Let me know of things that you want me to talk about or questions you have, or if you'd like to come on the show. Stay tuned. I'll have a great show for you next in Perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess. Will be back this time in 3 shakes.
Ever notice your dog slowing down and having health issues and wonder, what can I do to make them better? Well, my friend, add Rough Greens to your dog's food for 90 days and I guarantee you'll see changes that will amaze you. Greetings. Naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black, inventor of Rough Greens here, and I invite you to give your pup the Rough Greens 90-Day Challenge. In the first 30 days, you'll see shinier coats and increased energy. By day 60, your dog will have a stronger immune system, less shedding, improved joint function, all due to the live nutrients that you've added to their diet. And at 90 days, better digestion, reduced inflammation, improved heart health, and you may even have reduced their cancer risk. Fetch your dog a free Jumpstart trial bag today. Go to roughgreens.com. Use promo code 90day. That's ruffgreens.com. Use promo code 90day. You just cover the shipping. You don't have to change your dog's food to improve your dog's health. Just add a scoop of Rough Greens. Ever notice your dog slowing down and having health issues and wonder, what can I do to make them better? Well, my friend, add Rough Greens to your dog's food for 90 days and I guarantee you'll see changes that will amaze you. Greetings. Naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black, inventor of Rough Greens here, and I invite you to give your pup the Rough Greens 90-Day Challenge. In the first 30 days, you'll see shinier coats and increased energy. By day 60, your dog will have a stronger immune system, less shedding, improved joint function, all due to the live nutrients that you've added to their diet. And at 90 days, better digestion, reduced inflammation, improved heart health, and you may even have reduced their cancer risk. Fetch your dog a free Jumpstart trial bag today. Go to roughgreens.com. Use promo code 90day. That's ruffgreens.com. Use promo code 90day. You just cover the shipping. You don't have to change your dog's food to improve your dog's health. Just add a scoop of Rough Greens.